Next, we have specification number 8, again, an investigation part. It asks us, investigate and explain the effect of physical activity on rate and depth of breathing. So, in this section, we'll look at how physical activity influences both the rate and depth of breathing. So, before we begin the practical work, remember, safety first. Here are some important precautions to follow. First, make sure the person doing the exercise is fit and healthy before starting the activity. Second, use the same person for all readings to keep the results consistent. Third, always perform the experiment in a safe, open area with good ventilation. Next, avoid any kind of overexertion during exercise, stop immediately if the person feels dizzy or uncomfortable. Also, take your measurements right after the exercise, before the breathing rate returns to normal. When measuring chest expansion, ensure the tape measure is positioned properly around the chest at the same level each time for accurate results. And finally, repeat the experiment several times and calculate the average to make your results more reliable. Now, let's understand the principle behind this investigation. During physical activity, our muscles contract more often and need more energy to keep working. This energy comes from cellular respiration, a process that uses oxygen and releases carbon dioxide as a waste gas. To meet this higher oxygen demand, and to get rid of the extra carbon dioxide, the body naturally responds by increasing both the breathing rate, how often we breathe, and the depth of each breath, also called tidal volume. So, by measuring the changes in breathing rate and chest expansion before and after exercise, we can clearly observe how our respiratory system adjusts and adapts during physical activity. Let's move on to the objective, or aim, of this investigation, investigating the effect of physical activity on breathing. The goal here is to see how exercise affects both the rate and depth of breathing. We do this by comparing the number of breaths per minute and the amount of chest expansion before and after physical activity. Now, for the apparatus required, you'll need a stopwatch or timer to measure breathing rate per minute, and a tape measure to track chest expansion. You'll also need a notebook or graph paper to record and plot your results, along with a pen or pencil for writing down the data. Finally, make sure you have enough space to perform light exercise, like jogging on the spot or climbing stairs. Now, let's go through the procedure for investigating the effect of physical activity on breathing. First, ensure that the person performing the exercise is healthy and does not have any respiratory or heart conditions. It's important to use the same individual for all readings to keep the results consistent. The experiment should be carried out in a well-ventilated, safe area with enough space for movement. Always be careful. If the person feels dizzy or overly breathless, stop the exercise immediately to avoid any risk. For accurate measurements, make sure the tape measure is placed in the same position around the chest before and after exercise. Take the post-exercise readings right after finishing the activity to capture the true physiological changes. To get reliable results, repeat the experiment more than once and calculate an average. Finally, maintain a steady exercise intensity and duration, for example around 4 minutes, to ensure a fair comparison between trials. Now, let's look at the observations from this investigation. At rest, the typical breathing rate is around 12 to 15 breaths per minute, and the average chest expansion is about 3 to 4 centimeters. After exercise, the breathing rate increases noticeably to around 25 to 35 breaths per minute, and chest expansion also increases to about 5 to 7 centimeters. This shows that after physical activity, the body responds by breathing faster and taking deeper breaths, allowing more air, and therefore more oxygen, to enter the lungs to meet the muscles' increased energy demands. Looking at the results, we can see why these changes occur. The breathing rate increases because the respiratory system needs to supply more oxygen to the muscles and remove the extra carbon dioxide produced during activity. At the same time, chest expansion increases as the diaphragm and intercostal muscles contract more forcefully, allowing larger volumes of air to enter the lungs. Together, these responses ensure that the body meets the higher oxygen demands of the exercising muscles. This simple investigation gives us a clear indication of how breathing adapts to physical activity. However, to fully assess a person's physical fitness, we would also need to look at other factors, such as heart rate recovery, oxygen consumption, and how long the person can sustain the activity. So, in conclusion, physical activity has a direct effect on breathing, causing both the rate and depth of breaths to increase. This is the body's way of maintaining a balance between oxygen intake and carbon dioxide removal during periods of higher energy demand. After exercise, the breathing rate gradually returns to normal as the body repays the oxygen debt and breaks down lactic acid produced during anaerobic respiration. If you plot a graph of breathing rate against time or activity level, you'll see this pattern clearly: a sharp rise during exercise, followed by a gradual decrease during recovery. You can see here a graph plotting breathing rate against time or activity level, which clearly shows the pattern: a rapid increase during exercise, followed by a gradual decrease during recovery. On this graph, the breathing rate is measured in breaths per minute, illustrating how it changes in response to physical activity. You could also make a similar graph to show changes in heart rate, comparing a fit person to an unfit person. The horizontal axis represents time, showing the start and stop of exercise, while the vertical axis shows the breathing rate. This type of graph effectively demonstrates the variation in breathing rate during and after a period of exercise. Specifically, at the start of exercise, the breathing rate rises sharply because the body needs more oxygen and must remove extra carbon dioxide. During the exercise period, the breathing rate stays high to meet the muscle's increased oxygen demand. After stopping, the breathing rate gradually falls back toward the resting level as the body recovers, repays oxygen debt, and breaks down lactic acid. If we compare fit and unfit individuals, a fit person's breathing rate may rise less sharply and recover faster, whereas an unfit person may show a larger increase and slower recovery. In short, this graph provides a clear visual of how the respiratory system responds to exercise and how it recovers afterward.